Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And we are celebrating a Victory Wednesday as the Dallas Cowboys defeated the New York Football Giants in what was a much closer game than was expected. An early candidate for Game of the Year. Was a lot of twists, a lot of turns. A lot of unexpected things for Cowboys fans that happened in that game. But at the end of the day, football is all about entertainment, and you cannot take it away from them. That was a entertaining, hard-fought game by both teams. I know it was a lot closer than most of us expected, but when you're dealing with a rivalry game and you're playing um, in a historic rivalry between two teams, it's always not gonna go as expected. Luckily, we pulled it out at the end of the day. So kudos to the Cowboys for digging deep, stepping up, and pulling off a very hard fought victory. Now, we can do a lot of nitpicking and criticizing, but one thing we can say, in the past, a game like this, we would have probably got blown out, or we would have definitely lost at the last part of it. So before I say anything else, I want to give kudos to Brian Schottenheimer because the team fought hard the entire game, regardless of what was going on. The offensive game plan was amazing. They were clicking on all cylinders. They've definitely done a great job of reducing penalties so far, and they really believe they can win. He put them in situations to win. He played great situational football. They moved the ball downfield when they needed to. Dak made some timely runs. They made some great play calls on very high possession plays, third and fourth down, to keep the chains moving. And they pulled off the victory off of the leg of 2 to 3 great Brandon Aubrey kicks. So I want to say shouts out to them for a great game. Before we get started, I see we got a lot of people joining in. Let's see, we got one of my classmates, Raphael Govan, joining us, longtime Cowboys fan. Appreciate you joining us tonight. We got Mendoza joining us tonight. Haven't seen you in a while, Mendoza, so thank you for checking back in with us. I see we got quite a few people watching from the DC4L Facebook group, so thank you guys for joining us there. If those of you watching from YouTube and X have not joined yet, be sure you go over to DC4L on Facebook. A lot of great content. A lot of great dialogue, prizes, giveaways, and overall safe space for Cowboys fans to interact. And for those of you that don't know, this podcast is powered by the DC4L Facebook group. So those of you who are watching from DC4L, this is the official Dallas Cowboys DC4L podcast about the team. So hopefully you guys, if you're new to joining the show, you come back and continue to join us throughout the season. And for those of you who are watching from Facebook and DC4L group, we do also have a YouTube channel. So if you guys get a chance, go over to YouTube, type in DC4L, hit that subscribe button, help us on our path to 1,000 subscribers there. And then also find me, Bluff City Cowboys, on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button as well. It looks like right now most of the viewers are watching from that YouTube channel. So for you guys who are watching, I hope you guys have hit that subscribe button and hit that bell. I see we got 3 people in the comments. I know they have. So the other 20 or so people who are watching right now, while you're watching from my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. And one last thing, for those of you watching from Facebook, let's get those likes up. So let's get those likes to match the views. So even if you just dip your head in for a few minutes and want to see what's going on, hit that like button before you leave out, to help us keep ourselves in the algorithm and to help expand the DC4L Fifth Quarter Podcast Nation. And one last thing, as you guys know, this show is fueled by the Cowboys fans. So get in the comments. Let me know where you're from, how long you've been a Cowboys fan. Any questions, any comments about last week's game or this upcoming game. So I've been playing around with some video stuff. So I do plan on trying to do a little bit of all 22 work tonight. So this show may go a little bit longer than usual. So we're going to look at a couple of plays because that was a disaster in terms of secondary play. Let's go ahead and get into it. I see we got Jack Meeker joining us, a longtime follower, along with Mendoza and Jeff. So, Jack Meeker, thank you for joining us tonight as well. So, let's go ahead. Let's do a quick game recap of last week's game with the New York Giants.
Game recap.
So, as you guys know, hard-fought game, but the Dallas Cowboys pulled it off with a 40-37 victory against the New York Giants. Russell Wilson played a spectacular game to hold his job for at least another week from Jackson Dart. But at the end of the day, the Cowboys pulled it off. I got a couple of notes from the game, and then also I like to name a player of the week. We could have gone in several different directions here, but we all know the usual suspects: Dak, CD, George Pickens. I have to give a special shout out to Javonte Williams as the fifth quarter podcast player of the week. I know a lot of fans were not expecting a lot from Javonte this year, but in these first 2 weeks, he's shown us that he is more than capable of being a number one back and also being one of the top backs in the NFL. He had 18 carries for 97 yards. For those of you at home, that is 5 yards a carry. He also came in with 6 catches for 33 yards, 5 yards per reception, and he had a rushing touchdown to boot. So Javonte Williams really filled up the stat sheet. He kept the chains moving. He had a big run for a touchdown. He was a great check down person for Dak when the wide receivers and tight ends were covered. So, Javonte, shouts out to you. Glad to have you on the team. Great showing in your first home game as a Dallas Cowboy. Looking forward to seeing more of what he can continue to bring to this offense. All right, so that takes care of player of the game. Now, I do have a couple of notes that I want to go through from this game, and we'll start with the offensive side of the ball first. So, on the offensive side of the ball, our receivers are definitely playing with a lot more confidence. In particular, our number 3 and number 4 receivers. Kevontae Turpin has kind of started off as kind of a gadget guy in week 1. This week, he showed more of his receiving chops. I believe he had the most yards of separation from the cornerback of any receiver on the team at 6.1 yards. Shouts out to Professor O for giving me that stat. So he's going in. He's explosive. He's getting separation. He's giving Dak easy throws. And then I know the fan base wants to really just go in on Jalen Tolbert. But Jalen Tolbert made a lot of clutch catches in this game. He made the big 4th down catch. He made a couple of good first down catches as well. I think he had 3 catches for the game. For your 4th receiver, that's more than enough to make up for what you're doing. So you can definitely see the confidence in his game as well. Point number 2, we just talked about Javonte Williams. He's definitely almost back to pre-injury. He's still a little bit, he's not as explosive as I've seen him in the past, but he's definitely more explosive than I saw him in Denver. So we're definitely getting a better version of Javonte Williams, and I think he'll only get better as the season progresses. Point number 3, Brevin Spann-Ford. Brevin Spann-Ford has been blocking like a 6th lineman in the past 2 games. And I see we got my guy Keystone Cowboy joining us tonight. Keystone, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you tuning in as well. Yeah, Brevin Spann-Ford He doesn't do anything in the passing game. But when it comes to making wham blocks and sealing off defensive ends, he's by far our best blocker at the skill position. So he's definitely carving himself out a role as our second tight end because we have so many weapons at the other skill positions. We really don't need him for pass catching. I see we got Donald Ford Jr. joining us. Appreciate you joining us again, Donald. And we got Marty Vall joining us once again. So, Marty, thank you for tuning in as well. Let's see. Anybody else came in and joined us? I see you guys definitely have a nice little convo going in the comments. So I'll get to those in a second. Keystone saying we got our souped up Tyrone Crawford with Solomon. We'll talk defense in a second. Point number 4. Lamb and Pickens have been as advertised. Pickens started off slow last week, but he really picked it up this week, made some clutch catches, got the big pass interference play. No stupid penalties like last week. He looked more engaged in the offense. Last week, he was a little bit lackadaisical. This week, you can kind of see him finishing off those routes and being a little bit more encouraging on the field. So definitely glad to see those two meshing well. And then Lamb is just a one-man show out there, making up for all the drops he made last week's game. Now, point number 5, the receivers are playing with more confidence, but I still think we need a legit 4th receiver. Now, I see Jeff was in the comments says Mingo would definitely have a role. I can definitely see Mingo being that 4th receiver, that possession guy, going against the team's 3rd or 4th best cornerback. He's great on hitch routes. He's great on slants. He's got a big body. He can go vertical. So I think once we get him out there and we can make him a designated slant, sluggo, post guy, I think he's really going to add another dimension to this offense. All right, so let's go to my defensive notes next, and then we'll start to look ahead to the Chicago game. On defense, starting off, the scheme this past Sunday was trash, particularly in the secondary. We have big physical bump and run corners. We played zone the entire game. And shouts out again to Professor O. He showed me a chart that says Dallas is the only team in the NFL that has not ran any man concepts in the secondary. So when you got corners like Trayvon Diggs and Kyer Elam, 6'1", fast, physical wide cornerbacks, you don't put them in zone. You let them play to their strengths, do a lot of shadowing. You don't make them have to try to read and cover deep. Charlie just came in with establish the pass. You definitely can't have Wilson in single high. And we'll talk about a couple of these plays in a minute. I got a couple of them pointed out. Yeah. Our linebackers, for the most part, Sanborn in particular, is slow in terms of athleticism. And Kenneth Murray is slow in processing when it comes to pass coverage. So you can't put those guys in situations where you're running heavy cover 2 and expecting them to cover deep middle. And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. Our defensive tackle group may be top 10. Keystone made a point, I think I just highlighted that, about Solomon Thomas being a souped up Tyrone Crawford. Our defensive line was really bringing it. Unfortunately, the concepts that we were running in the secondary allow guys to get open so quick that our defensive line never got a chance to get home. So we definitely need to see more from our secondary to make the quarterback hold the ball another second to half a second so that our defensive line can finally get there. Demo will kick Sanborn to the bench, but can we wait that long? That's a great point. And we still only saw 6 snaps from Leofow. So that's another question we got to ask. Jack Meeker just went to point number 4. Sanborn should not be a starter. I saw mistakes left and right. I can't really get to all of them because there were so many mistakes in the secondary. But trust me, he was a step slow consistently. And then number 5, James Houston needs more reps. I would be happy if we saw a James Houston, Jadeveon Clowney bookend as our starters, because James Houston, from a PFF grade, was probably our best defensive end in terms of pass rush grade and run defense grade. He was tops in both. So we definitely need to see more of James Houston in the future. So now, if you guys would just indulge me a minute, I did want to try to go through some plays. I've been kind of playing around with some video, trying to put some graphics and just demonstrate some of the stuff that I noticed when I watched the game. So again, I just talked about this team is not running man. It's almost all zone. So what I did was I pulled every play that was more than 20 yards because these were the plays that killed us this game. So we'll just go through these 7 plays really quick. If you guys have any questions in the comments, let me know. Charlie, yeah, he's leading our D-line in pass rush win rate. James Houston definitely deserves more snaps. I see we got Russell Dyer joining us. Being an optimist, still not worried about the defense. Surprisingly, I'm more worried about the back end than the front end, which I would not have said prior to week 1. But if you look at some of these clips, you'll definitely understand why. I see we got my guy Marlon joining us in the comments. Appreciate you tuning in. All right, guys, let me go through 7 clips really quick, and I'll just point out some of the deficiencies I saw. So this first clip was early in the game, Wan'Dale Robinson right down the middle. So looking at the formation, it looks like cover 2 from how they're lined up. The corners are at the line of scrimmage, so that lets me know that there is a little bit of pressing. So it's cover 2. So these 2 corners, their job is to bump and then retreat. Now they can either stop about 10 yards or they can pattern match. And what pattern match means is if you have one receiver to your side, in particular, Trayvon Diggs, if this receiver goes inside, his job is to match him. If he goes deep, you stay deep. This is your guy because there's no other receivers on your side of the field. And on this side, because they have multiple receivers and it looks like cover 2, his job is to defend 10 to 15 yards. Now, these linebackers, this nickelback right here, he's responsible for curl flat. This linebacker is responsible for curl flat. So if this receiver runs a slant, stops right here, this is this linebacker's responsibility. Now, this middle linebacker, which is Kenneth Murray, his responsibility, because these safeties are going like this. They're covering the hashes because it's cover 2. This linebacker's responsibility is to cover the middle because these safeties have to go out and back. So I want you guys to see this really quick. This linebacker's job is to go here. The safeties cover deep. These cornerbacks are going to either 10 yards or pattern match. Now, let's see what the guys do when the ball gets snapped. All right, so pay attention to Diggs at the bottom. Diggs bumps. Okay, he's looking back. He's at his 10-yard mark. He sees the running back right here. So now he watches the running back. Remember, it's cover 2. So this safety is responsible for deep. Let's go on the other side. This receiver right here is going deep. So this safety here has to cover here. Remember what I said. This linebacker, his responsibility is to cover the middle because these guys are going deep. Now, look at what Kenneth Murray does. He gets hung up by this tight end who's already covered by this corner. And this guy streams down the middle. This is supposed to be Kenneth Murray's responsibility. Wide receiver splits the safeties, long play. All right, let's go to play number 2. All right, so see the wide receiver going to motion? Nobody followed. Nobody followed this wide receiver. So that tells me we're going to be in a zone defense. Looking at how they're lined up right now, because there's only one safety, it looks like it's either cover 1 or cover 3. Now, let's assume it's cover 3. If it's cover 3, this cornerback's job is to cover all of this and not let anyone get behind him. This safety's job is to cover this between the hashes. Nobody gets behind him. And then this cornerback's job is to cover the deep third. Cover 3. Everybody has a third of the field. The safety is curl flat. This cornerback is also curl flat. These 2 linebackers are middle hook. So if somebody runs a crossing route, somebody runs a comeback, somebody runs across the middle, it's these 2 linebackers' responsibility. So I've given you guys what they do. Let's see what happens when the ball gets snapped. All right, so let's watch Diggs first. All right, Diggs right here at the bottom of the screen. He's shuffling his feet. He lets the guy get behind him. It looks like cover 3, cover 1. He's not supposed to let a guy get behind him in that coverage. Now, people might say that's Malik Hooker's fault, but Malik Hooker has to cover all this. He just happened to see Diggs get beat, so he tried to come over and help. But this is supposed to be Trayvon Diggs' responsibility. All right, let me go to play number 3 really quick. All right, play number 3. Once again, if you look right now, it looks like cover 1. But if you watch when the ball gets snapped, this safety retreated. So now they tried to disguise a cover 1, but it's really a cover 2. So cover 2, this corner either runs with the offensive lineman, with the receiver, or stays shoulder to shoulder. Same here. Cover 2, this safety has this. This safety has this. Mike linebacker has the middle, Jack Sanborn. So let's see what happens. We know it's cover 2. Let's see what happens when the ball goes into play. All right. So watch Jack Sanborn right here. Sanborn right here is supposed to have this receiver going across the middle. Not even paying attention. Not even paying attention. Terrible. All right, play number 4. They go into motion. Another zone. Looks like cover 2. We'll do this play and we'll do one more play, then we'll move on. I just want to show you guys all the mistakes they were making on these deep passes. So it looks like cover 2. So it may actually be cover 6. So cover 6 means This side of the field is playing cover 2. So 10 yards to pattern match, deep hash. Because this corner is playing off, it makes me think that they're playing quarters on this side, which means he has a quarter of the field and he has a quarter of the field. So let's see what happens when the ball gets snapped. All right, watch the top of the screen. Trayvon Diggs. Now, Trayvon is playing cover 2. Look at this safety. Why is he standing still? Why is he looking in the backfield? So on this play, it's the opposite. It looks like Diggs got beat, but in actuality, why is this safety not backpedaling and covering his hash? Wide receiver runs right by him, easy touchdown. I just want to show you guys a couple of those plays just to show you like a lot of mental errors. A lot of DBs that are playing zone coverages and concepts and don't understand what they're doing. We got to let them go back into more man concepts. We got to let them get the line of scrimmage. We got to let them put their hands on the receivers just to give the defensive line an extra second to get there. I think if we can do that, we should have a much better game. So let me go to the comments really quick. I see you guys did a lot of talking while I was out. I see we got Cortland joining us. Cortland, appreciate you tuning in. Another Cowboys fan. Let's see. Safety needs to change. 100% agree. We don't have many options right now, so we're kind of stuck with what we got. We definitely need Bland back in the secondary. Thank you for joining us, Charles Moon. Jack Meeker asked the question, who starts opposite Clowney? To be honest, we have such a hodgepodge of defensive ends. I don't know what side they're going to play Clowney on, and because of that, I don't know who starts opposite him. So if Clowney plays right defensive end, then I would probably assume that it's going to be Nealon or Sam Williams. If he plays left defensive end, then it'll probably be James Houston or Dante Fowler. So it really depends on what side of the line that Clowney plays on. We just got to wait and see on Sunday. Raphael says, in this game against the Bears, I will go James Houston because Caleb likes to run when the play breaks down. 100%. Jack Meeker echoing what Charlie said earlier. Donald never should be single high ever. Absolutely agree. Yeah, safeties are indecisive. 100%, Terry. You just saw the play I just showed. Safety was just looking in the backfield. Didn't even get out of his stance when the ball was snapped. Cortland asked the question, you think Cowboys should get Gilmore again? The better question would be, will they? The answer to that is no. We're at week 3 right now. It sounds like Siobhan Revel should be ready in the next 2 weeks. Kalen Carson will probably be ready in the next 2 weeks. So we're going to get 2 more cornerbacks off injured reserve. And because of that, I don't think they would sign a cornerback right now, knowing that 2 guys are going to come back healthy. And then it also sounds like Bland may be back in 2 to 3 weeks as well. So I think they're going to just hold down the fort, try to live with this as best as they can, and wait for reinforcements. But unfortunately for us, the next 2 games are against the Chicago Bears with 2 very good receivers, and then Green Bay, who completely torched us last year or 2 years ago. Sanborn is wee woo. I'm sick and tired of the buddy system. Now, week 1, I gave them a pass. So Keystone, I said week 1, it's your first game. You're a new defensive coordinator. You're going to dance with who you brought. And he brought Sanborn here. So I understand week 1. Kenneth Murray's a veteran. Sanborn's a veteran. You don't know Leofow. I understand not putting Leofau in week 1, but if you realistically watch the tape week 1, there's no way Leofau should not have been on the field week 2. And if you watch the tape at halftime, there's definitely no way Leofau should not been in the second half. Charlie says Revel probably won't be back until week 7. Said he'll be ready after 4 weeks, but they'll probably use the whole 3 weeks to ramp him up. You're probably right, Charlie. But again, we're at week 2. You still got Carson. You still got Bland. If we go by what the team says, those guys are going to be back quick. You don't want to they're not going to bring in another veteran who could potentially make the decision tough when those guys come back. And then also, if you are Gilmore and you know you're 34 and the team has 3 young cornerbacks who they want to get on the field coming back within the next month, is this the place you want to sign? Because I wouldn't, because you're pretty much going to get cut. And because they signed you week 2, your contract's not guaranteed. So does Gilmore want to come here and be a 3-week rental and then go through the embarrassment of being cut after being a former defensive MVP? I doubt it. Yeah, standing flat-footed and peeking into the backfield at safety while wide receivers are running past the 8-yard threshold is crazy. 100% agree. That's unacceptable. I agree. Bell should be playing more this week. Charlie says Gilmore is washed. Whether he's washed or not, I don't think he's coming here. I think he'll rather sit at home and wait for an injury to happen that will give him more assurances he'll have a full season. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have for the Giants game. Let's go ahead and look ahead to the Chicago Bears game. But before we do that, we got to talk about some storylines heading into this week's matchup. So we got one big storyline. You guys have talked about it pretty much the whole show. Let's get to it.
Storylines.
So the biggest storyline of the week is literally minutes after the game was over, the Dallas Cowboys signed Jadeveon Clowney to the roster. Now, the team came out and said they had a contract in agreement on Saturday. But to me, that just seems too convenient that the guy literally signs before they finish cleaning up the stadium. So we got Jadeveon Clowney coming in. Had a couple of solid seasons the past 2 years. Gonna bring some veteran leadership. Definitely gonna improve the run defense at a minimum. Anything? Are you asking the question, Charlie, or are you saying that as a statement? Because I heard they said they had a contract and agreement on Saturday, but they didn't announce it until Sunday. Yeah, so he's definitely going to help against the run. On the pass, if he gives us anything, that'll be a bonus. I pretty much made a tweet as soon as I saw that Clowney is gonna basically be DeMarcus Lawrence at a tenth of the price, and I was pretty much right based off of the contract that he signed. The contract he signed is basically a few dollars above league minimum, and with incentives, it could go up to $6 million. I'm pretty sure those incentives are he has to get X amount of snaps, he has to get X amount of sacks, and the team has to go X amount in terms of win percentage and playoff success. So without seeing a contract, I'm pretty sure he'll never hit $6 million. So it's basically a 1-year, $3 million contract that'll probably go closer to 4 based on how him and the team produces. I love the signing. I like what our defensive tackles are doing right now. When we play a team like we're going to play this week, when you need your edges to be more disciplined, in terms of containing a mobile quarterback. He's going to be great with that. Um, he's smart enough to know when to trail back and when to go full pass rush. He's smart enough to know how to control the C gap and how to contain on the backside, as well as when runs are coming right at him. He's a big defensive end, so he should be able to hold up well against tackles. I think he gives us a lot. And then you get to give these young pass rushers grown up in the room that they can talk to and get feedback from. Because when you look at our secondary and our defensive end group, everybody's everybody's under 26 except for Fowler. And Fowler has never been known as a team leader. So now you got what I would consider a real veteran team leader type guy who can stand up in the classroom, who can give guys tips during the game on what he's seeing, who can let guys kind of know what to expect from play to play. And just give them those little reminders in the huddle, like this is 3rd and 10. Remember, don't rush past the quarterback. This is first and 10. Do not give up outside contain. Watch the tackle, watch the guard and the tackle to see what they do, and then do this. Stuff like that that a veteran can pick up on quickly that a lot of these young guys have never seen before. I agree. Him and Nealon would be great on early downs. Him and James Houston as well. Jack Meeker saying he's going to give us 7 to 9 sacks this year. I think that's wishful thinking, Jack. If he can give us 3 sacks, I would be happy with that, along with what I think he'll do in terms of the run defense. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him in terms of run defender, because Fowler and Williams made a lot of mistakes week 1. Week 2, we didn't really get to see a lot of mistakes because Russell Wilson was letting it go, so they didn't have to run the ball. But this week we play the Chicago Bears. So let's go ahead and look ahead to this week's game against the Chicago Bears. So when I look at the tail of the tape, offense and defense, we're scoring 30 points a game. Chicago's at 22. Our defense is giving up 30 points a game, while Chicago over the past 2 weeks have given up almost 40 points a game. So this has the makings of a shootout. Both teams can score high. Both teams have given up a lot of points. And then you look at the turnover differential. The Cowboys are a -1. Chicago is a -2. So there's going to probably be a turnover. There's going to be a lot of scoring. Let's see. Charles Moon says Clowney is glad we have Kenny Clark. Better pressure for Clowney, better pressure from the outside. We'll see if that comes into play. I just want him to be able to contain and help on run defense. If he gives me anything in terms of a pass rush, to me, again, that's a bonus. All right, so when I look at the Bears play, and then we'll go into our key matchups. So when I look at the Bears play, remember, Matt Eberflus was the former coach, so he knows the team well. Defensively, they play a lot like us, so they are a heavy zone team. Fortunately for us, they're dealing with more injuries in their secondary than we are. As of right now, the Bears, 3 of the Bears' top 5 DBs are going to be out this week. So their best cornerback, Jalen Johnson, is going to be out. Their nickel corner, Kyler Gordon, is going to be out. Their number 3 DB is also going to be out in Jalen Jones. So the starting defensive backs for this team are going to be Nashawn Wright. We all know that name. Tyreek Stevenson, a journeyman defensive back, and then a nickel back named Nick McLeod, who I believe was an undrafted free agent about 3 or 4 years ago. So there's going to be some opportunities for us to take advantage of them in the pass game. And in the run game, they are bottom 3 right now, giving up over 150 yards rushing. So the defensive line is not holding up in the run game, and they have 3 of their top 5 cornerbacks injured. There's going to be some chances for our offense to really explode this week. But on the flip side of that, they have some explosive wide receivers. They just drafted a tight end in the first round. We're going to see a lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. And they're going to try to take advantage of those zone coverages that we keep messing up on. And then Charlie is throwing in another caveat, a 50% chance of rain along with 15-mile-per-hour winds. This could be a very sloppy game for both teams. So I see Jack Meeker and Charles Moon already getting to it. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the key matchups going into this week's game.
Key matchups.
We got to start with the first key matchup of this game. This is defensive coordinator, former Bears head coach, Matt Eberflus versus Ben Johnson, offensive guru. Hopefully, because Eberflus was the coach, he should know tendencies. Their skill positions are all still the same guys except for Loveland. So hopefully he can use some of his intel from being the coach there for 3 years to kind of know what the receivers like, what they don't like, what they're good at, what they're bad at, and also what Caleb Williams has problems with. So he should have an advantage. But then you look at Ben Johnson, offensive guru. The last time we saw Ben Johnson was last year at Detroit, and Detroit lit us up. I think the Bears have just as many skill weapons as the Lions did. So this one can definitely be an interesting matchup between these two. Rome Odunze is a scary receiver. Raphael saying Chicago has a receiver named Odunze who can destroy you in zone if you aren't careful. So you guys are leading up to it. Let's go to our next key matchup. Let me see. Do I have that key matchup? Yep. So next key matchup, you guys are talking about in the comments. Reddy Stewart, undrafted free agent, was on the Bears practice squad, signed by the Cowboys, going against Rome Odunze. Now, Reddy Stewart had a solid game last week, but he's facing a different animal this week in Rome Odunze. Rome is super explosive. He's been making big plays left and right. He's entering the second year in the NFL, so he's really taking that second year step. Reddy Stewart had it kind of easy this past week, but he's really going to have his hands full this week with Rome Odunze. And you guys said in the comments, Rome can destroy a zone if given an opportunity. Now, Terry Rudd says Pickens versus Johnson is going to be interesting. So it sounds like Jalen Johnson will not be available in this week's game. So who George Pickens will be facing is Nashawn Wright. That's our second key matchup. Nashawn Wright is surprisingly their best boundary corner right now. So he's probably going to be shadowing George Pickens on the outside. Nashawn Wright, 6'4" DB. As Cowboys fans, we are very familiar with him. He has problems seeing the ball in the air. I mean, he did have the big pick six. I believe it was week 1. But again, we all know what type of DB he is as Cowboys fans. And I feel like George Pickens' game is going to continue to be implemented into the scheme. You got a receiver who's great at 50-50 balls against a cornerback who does not get his head turned around. That has the chances for a recipe for disaster for the Bears. So I'm gonna really pay close attention to this matchup, George Pickens versus Nashawn Wright. So Jack Meeker says, I wish CD drew Nashawn. CD has a pretty good matchup of his own. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. All right, let's go to my next key matchup. We got a new player joining us. I should have put this as a storyline, but I forgot to. But Cooper Beebe injured his ankle. Sounds like he's going to be out for a few weeks. Brock Hoffman came into the game, played fairly well coming off the bench, and now he's expected to be our starter for the next couple of weeks or so. Now, I know a lot of fans are upset because we lost Cooper Beebe, but got to remind you guys, last season, Hoffman and Beebe were in a competition for the starting center spot. And the competition was pretty much neck and neck. The only reason Beebe won it is because Beebe was a third-round pick and Hoffman was an undrafted guy. So it's not like we're going to have a major drop-off between the two. The only difference is Beebe got a full year of experience and Hoffman had to kind of sit on the bench. But Hoffman is a veteran. And in his first matchup, he goes against Grady Jarrett, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the most difficult defensive tackles to cover in the NFL because he's an undersized guy and he plays kind of erratic because he's so small, but he's explosive and he's physical. So he does, it's hard to explain. I wish I can pull a video up and show you, but he just does unusual things to get leverage and to get an edge. And for a guy like Hoffman who hasn't seen that before, it may kind of throw him off guard. So this is going to be a really good matchup to pay attention to. But it's really a power versus power matchup. But Grady Jarrett does have some explosiveness, and he may be able to take advantage of Hoffman on a couple opportunities if given the chance. All right, my next key matchup, my last key matchup, we're at 48 minutes. Went kind of long with the all 22 stuff, so I'm going to try to cut it a little bit short to get you guys out in an hour. So the last key matchup is Jack Sanborn versus Colton Loveland. Now, again, remember, I showed you guys the clips a few minutes ago. When we run cover two, it's the middle linebacker's job to carry players down the middle of the field. That player is going to be 6'5" Colton Loveland, more than likely. So Jack Sanborn is going to be tested 6'6", my mistake. Jack Sanborn is really going to be tested this week if we continue to run cover two, because he's going to have to cover him on drags or carry him down the middle of the field if we run cover two. So Loveland hasn't had a lot of good games yet, but this game, if Sanborn's the mic, he's going to have a lot of opportunities to make some big plays. Go back and look at the Giants tight end last week, had 3 really big catches. Colton Loveland's going to have those same opportunities this week. And I agree with you, Jeff. I would love to see this be a Leo foul game, not only because the Bears have 2 athletic tight ends, but because they have an athletic quarterback who can get outside the pocket and make some plays happen with his legs. And unfortunately, I agree with you. This one has the opportunity to be the one that get us killed, because Sanborn cannot run with this guy. He's not fast enough. He's not tall enough. And again, this is his old team. So I'm sure they know what he's good at and what he's bad at. So Sanborn, they have a ton of tape on him and they know exactly what to do to take advantage of him. That's my biggest concern. All right, guys. So those are all my key net matchups. Next, let's go into our X factors. So for those of you who are joining us on the show, X factors are players who aren't the household names who have an opportunity to have a major effect on the game, whether it be good or bad. Now, this week I do have a couple of guys who are star players, but because of what they do and how they can affect the game, I had to put them as X factors. So let's go ahead and jump into our first X factor. Before we do, I see YouTube is really blowing up tonight. So thank you everybody watching from YouTube. Thank you everybody that's in the comments. You guys have really been bringing it so far. Great questions, great comments. Let's keep it going for the next 20 minutes or so. Let me know your thoughts on these X factors, and then we'll close the show out with our over under. For those of you watching from Facebook, do not forget to hit that like button. And those of you watching from X, at some point, I need to see you guys go over to YouTube so I can get you guys in the comments and see what you think about the stuff we're talking about. It looks like my YouTube has grown a lot tonight, so I'm assuming a lot of you guys from X are starting to trickle over to YouTube. So hopefully you guys will get in the comments as well. So Marlo says Odunze and Pickens going crazy Sunday. I agree. I think those are the two guys who have the biggest opportunities to make an impact on the game. Lamb's going to do what Lamb does, but I think Pickens going against Wright is going to have a chance to make some really big vertical plays. All right, so let's go to our X factors next. So our first X factor, and you guys have talked about this one in the comments all night, is Maris Leofow. Now, this one is not an X factor because of how he plays on the field. He's an X factor if he gets on the field. He needs to be on the field. I think we all agree with that. We need to see him get more opportunities. So he's an X factor because if he plays, I think he'll make a major impact. And if he doesn't play, I think he'll make a major impact because we'll be relying on Sanborn and everything I just talked about with the key matchups. So I have Leofow as my number one X factor. My number two X factor is Kavontae Turpin. Kavontae had a great game last week. 6 yards of separation, best on the team. We talked about the Pickens matchup. We talked about Lamb. But I just told you guys that 3 of the top 5 DBs are injured for the Bears. So if we do a little bit of math, if Turpin's our third receiver, the Bears are already down their first, third, and fourth cornerback. That means by the time you get to Turpin, you're going to be at your sixth corner is going to be covering Kavontae Turpin, who runs a 4.2 and can get 6 yards of separation on starting DBs. So now Turpin has a chance to go against the sixth corner on the Bears. I don't even know who that is. So Turpin is going to have some opportunities to take advantage of a very weak matchup. Jack Meeker says Turpin's trap sounds like it would be okay game time. Yeah, he's dealing with a trap injury. It's kind of a difficult spot to be in, but I think it's more of a pain tolerance thing than anything. I think you can shoot him up and he'll be good. He doesn't take a lot of big hits. He's super fast, so it's hard to catch him once he gets an open field. And right now, he's not doing kick or punt return, so that takes away some of the chances of him getting hit. So I think Turpin has a chance to be a major X factor in this game. The next X factor, Javonte Williams. Now, I know I just said I try not to do the household name guys, but in this game, with what Charlie pointed out earlier, 50% chance of rain, 15-mile-an-hour winds. It's Chicago. It's the Windy City. You're playing on a grass field. This is where your running game can be important because we got a physical offensive line. Their defensive line has not been good, and the Bears have given up 150 yards rushing per game. Javonte Williams has a chance to have a career game this week, and worst case scenario, he has a chance to put the defense on their heels to open things up even more for our wide receivers. So Javonte Williams has a major opportunity right here to cement himself as not only the best running back for the Cowboys, but also one of the top running backs in the NFL this year. Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that 33. That's a good number. I know it's odd for a running back, but I definitely like it. Charles Moon says, I hope Miles Sanders doesn't fumble in this game. To be honest, I don't know if we see a lot of Miles Sanders in this game. We didn't see a lot of him last week. I really think this is going to be a heavy Javonte Williams game, 20 to 25 carries. And even more if the team is fortunate enough to get a lead late in the game. All right, and my last X factor, Caleb Williams. Again, I know I said I don't do household names, but Caleb Williams is a rare talent. He has a great arm. He's great running the ball. We saw what Jalen Hurts did to us week 1 in terms of running the ball. We saw what Russell Wilson did this past week throwing the ball. Caleb Williams has the talent to do both of those. So he has a chance to really show that he's worth that first overall pick. They got embarrassed last week against the Lions, so he has to come and step back up at home. So I think Caleb Williams has a chance to really blow this game out of the water with his arm or with his legs. Charles Moon asked the question, what's going on with running back Blue? I mean, it's mostly just speculation right now, but it sounds like the coaching staff doesn't trust him. And that's understandable. I mean, I know as Cowboys fans, we're all excited. Blue runs a 4-3. He's going to be our running back of the future. But we got to remember, Blue is a 5th round pick. 5th round picks don't normally play early. So it's not like this is an unusual occurrence that Blue's not touching the field. There are a lot of 5th round picks that aren't touching the field right now. So Blue's not in this this isolated box where every other team's using their young running backs and Jaden Blue is just getting put on the back burner for a reason we don't know. Now, I agree. I do want to see him play also. I think Javonte Williams has proven that he can be an every down back. He can give you 20 to 25 carries. So you only really need 3 to 5 carries from your backup. So if you're putting him in for 3 to 5 carries in a game, I think it's worth giving Jaden Blue an opportunity. Now, will they do that? I don't know. It's probably coming down to blocking skills too. But again, Javonte Williams has proven to be an every down back. So you don't necessarily have to put Blue in on passing situations. So it's not like that's going to kill us if you only bring him in as a 1st and 2nd down guy or a 3rd down guy when you're going to put him in a route. But I would guess that's probably going to be part of the reason why he's not playing. Let's see. Yeah, Jack Mika says between the shoulder stuff. Yeah, it's all mental stuff. But I think his chance is going to come pretty soon. The other problem is they can't make Lepke inactive because he's too important in blocking, and he's too important on special teams. So it really comes down to Sanders or Blue. And in my opinion, and I said this week one, if heaven forbid something happens to Javonte Williams during the game, do you want to rely on Miles Sanders, who's a 6-year veteran, who's been there and done it before, to get you through the rest of the game? Or do you want to rely on Jaden Blue, who hasn't played almost any preseason, was hurt most of training camp, and when he did play, did not look very good? So I understand what the team is thinking. You can't keep 4 running backs active because we have so many other injuries. So Jaden Blue's just gonna have to buy his time until they can trust him to be an emergency bell cow in the game. And once he does that, then I think he'll get the opportunity. Now, his biggest problem is we have another running back by the name of Phil Maffa, who did prove he can be an early down back. He did prove he can be a 3-down back. And he's probably going to be back in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So if Jaden Blue doesn't prove himself and Maffa comes back, he may get pushed even further down the roster, because I think they will probably let Phil Maffa be active over Miles Sanders, or they may just cut Miles Sanders altogether. So definitely something to pay attention to as we get into weeks 5 and 6. All right, so I think that covers all of my X factors. So we're at an hour. We're in the last segment of the show. So for those of you who are watching, thank you for sticking with us the entire time. As you guys know, I don't like to be on here long. I'm going to get you guys for an hour 15, and then I'm going to give you guys the rest of your night. So we're going to go into our last segment, which is over under. And for those of you that are new to the show, over under is where I give you a player and I give you a statistic, and you let me know whether or not you think that player goes over or under that statistic. So let's go ahead and hop into over under.
Over under.
All right, so the first over under, the Chicago Bears wide receivers DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, over under 90 yards receiving for either one of these two receivers. Over under 90 yards receiving for either receiver. If the answer is yes, let me know which one or both. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Over under 90 yards receiving for either of the Bears starting wide receivers. And while I wait for you guys to comment, I'll give you guys my thoughts. I definitely think Rome Odunze goes over 90. I think it was Jack Meeker that said it before. Rome Odunze plus a zone defense is gonna spell a disaster for the Cowboys. So I see we got Jeff saying over for both of them. So you're expecting a really big game offensively. Marlo says over for Odunze. Cortland says the same thing. And Jack Meeker says over till our secondary is healthy. Charles Moon also says over. I'm assuming you mean both Charles Moon and not just one or the other. So watching the last two Bears games, it looks like there's still some miscommunication between DJ Moore and Caleb Williams. So I think that one may go under. On top of that, they've started using DJ Moore a lot like how Deebo Samuel used to get used. So they're doing a lot of bubble screens. They're doing a lot of reverses. They're putting him in the backfield as a running back. So I think he's going to be busy with all that other gadget stuff that he won't have a chance to get over 100 yards receiving. And I really think Rome Odunze and Colton Loveland are going to be just killing us so bad that DJ Moore doesn't have a chance to go off. Might put 100 on it. I'm definitely putting 100 on Odunze. I'm right there with you, Cortland. I think Adunze has a really big game. If Wandale Robinson can do that and Adunze plays the same spot, and Ben Johnson loves to target the slot receiver in his scheme, I think Adunze is gonna get a bunch of opportunities. So Cortland putting the prop bets up. I'm definitely betting. I don't know what the line is for Adunze. If the line is 60 or less, I'm definitely going over. So I'm definitely gonna be placing some money on that bet for sure. And I'm sure because Colton Loveland hasn't done much so far, his line is probably gonna be really low. So if you're a gambler and Colton Loveland's line is 15 or less, I would absolutely place some money on that one. All right, let's go to our next over under. Um, so I just talked about Javonte Williams has a chance to be really explosive this game. Over under 75 yards rushing for Javonte Williams. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Over under 75 yards rushing for Javonte Williams. All right. Jack Meeker says over. Marlo says under. Jeff says under as well, but he gets a touchdown. Marlo also thinks he gets a touchdown. I'm torn on this one. Watching how bad Chicago looked against Detroit last week and how Jordan Mason started to crank up in week 1, I think Javonte Williams is right there along the lines with those running backs. I think he goes over. I think he goes over again. I will put him at another 90-yard game. Jack Meeker says the only thing is our center, but I still believe over. I don't think you have to worry about the center that much. Brock Hoffman is super talented. He almost won the job last year. I don't think the drop-off is going to be that much. Now, because it's going to be a sloppy game, we may have to have some concerns about ball security between the center and the quarterback, but I don't think in terms of pass blocking and run blocking that we'll have any issues. So, and actually, I think Hoffman may be a better run blocker than BB at this point. So definitely, I'm going over on Javonte Williams. All right, next one. I just talked about him as an X factor. He could beat us with his legs as much as he can with his arm. 40 yards rushing for Caleb Williams. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. 40 yards rushing for Caleb Williams. While you guys go in the comments, I'll go ahead and comment as well. I think this one's going to be over. Chicago has a home game. Caleb has to put his best foot forward. I think because we run a zone that there's going to be some opportunities for him. So I can see him having a Jalen Hurts type game where he may only have about 180 yards passing. Most of those are Rome Odunze, but I think he may get about 50 to 55 yards. So I'm right there with Terry Rudd. I think 55 yards and a touchdown is kind of what I'm expecting on the ground, and then another 170 to 200 passing. So looks like everybody's right there with me. Over. Jack Meeker saying they better get this one corrected. Charles Moon also saying over. All right. Last over under of the night, because I want to get you guys out by 1:15. And as you guys know, the last over under is a either or. Who has more passing yards in this week's game? Dak Prescott or Caleb Williams? Who has more passing yards in this week's game? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Personally, I'm going Dak. I think it's going to be closer than expected because I think the Cowboys are really going to be successful running the ball. So Dak won't have to throw as much as Caleb may have to throw because I think we can shut their run game down. Swift is not a really good running back. Their offensive line still has some holes. And with the addition of Jadeveon Clowney, I think our run defense is going to be extremely solid. So I'm going Dak, but not by much. Charles Moon has an over. Marlowe has over. Jack Meeker has Dak by a mile. Charles Moon also has Dak. Terry has Dak getting 320 and 3 touchdowns. Jack Meeker going even higher, saying Dak has 350. Terry says Caleb Williams has about 268. See, I don't think Dak gets that many passing yards. I really believe this is going to be a Javonte Williams to play action game where Dak may have about 5 or 6 really good 15-yard passes, but I think at the end of the game, he'll probably end up like 225, 230, and Caleb Williams will probably be right there around the same thing, 220 to 250. So I'm going to give it to Dak by an inch, but I wouldn't be shocked if Caleb Williams has more passing yards. All right, guys. So that's pretty much all I have for this week's show. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about me putting some plays up and walking through them and talking to you guys through kind of what I saw and what to expect. If you like it, considering who I was talking about, Jeff, definitely a pause. But yeah, if you guys like me going through the videos and showing you concepts and things like that, let me know and I'll try to keep implementing that throughout the season. Unfortunately, I'm going out of town this weekend, so I don't think I'll be back in time to do a pregame show. But until then, you can definitely catch me right here on the Fifth Quarter Podcast every Wednesday night at 8:30 Central Standard Time, where hopefully we'll be celebrating a Victory Wednesday and we'll be looking ahead to next week's major contest against the Green Bay Packers. Going to be a lot of great storylines to talk about that game. A lot of great matchups. I'm pretty certain a lot of them going to be their defense versus our offense, but it's going to be a lot to talk about. I may try to bring a guest in on that show, or it just may be us again talking football. So thank you guys. I definitely appreciate you tuning in. As always, you guys brought it. This show is fueled by Fifth Quarter Nation, and you guys definitely do not disappoint. So thank you for everybody who joined us for the first time. Hope you continue to join us back for future episodes. And as always, let's go Cowboys. I will see you guys next week.